Hello, welcome to this game review. We'll have a look at a game in which white severely misplayed the opening, didn't really get anything, and later he blundered a nice in-between move by the opponent, after which he was left a pawn down in the endgame. Even though he had chances, he did not manage to defend. So it started as an accelerated dragon, and here white's only real plan is to play bishop e3, f3, and play the so-called Yugoslav attack, where we put the bishop on f3 and then queen on d2, and then try to checkmate with h4, h5, castle queenside, g4 if needed, and attack like this. And this is basically the only and best plan. White plays instead knight c6, which doesn't make sense since now black's structure is improved, and there was no reason to do this. We should have kept the tension. Now the structure is improved, black got the b file for himself, and white has no advantage. Next, white develops the queen for some reason. In general, in the opening, we should be trying to develop the minor pieces first, so bishop c4, bishop f4, and then maybe develop the queen, decide which way to castle, though at this point castling queenside seems a bit dangerous. Now bishop c4. Here black has a typical problem of how to get rid of the tension on f7, and if possible we should develop pieces to get rid of problems. Here e5 is of course interesting, but now knight d5 is possible, and the white cannot take this pawn because after this there is queen e5 check and black wins. Here white should of course continue developing bishop f4, maybe castle queenside since now the b file is closed, or just rook d1, and try to play against the weak square on d6 and play in the center. Instead white starts moving around the same piece twice, moving the knight from the center back to e2, but the knight has no future here. It's unclear where it is going, and on f4 it's also not doing anything, so this is a big mistake. This allows black to take the center. Here black takes back with the e pawn. Probably it's better to take back with the c pawn to keep less pawn islands, and after the check black can safely put his king on f8, and white's pieces don't really make much sense. This is hanging, black has a big center, and white is undeveloped. With ed, now a few moves later the queens are exchanged. Here bishop a6 improves the bishop, exchanges happen, and white plays knight d3, moving around the same piece again. He should be trying to develop the remaining pieces, or at least create some threats. Here bishop a4 is a nice move, which is likely to win a pawn. For example, if here then knight takes d5, and if rook c8 it's the same. So black should castle queenside and give up this pawn, and then try to use his initiative in the center, while white's king is a bit stuck. And black is better, but white should be about okay. But knight d3, now black moves the bishop, bishop f4, king d7, and white castles queenside, which is unfortunately a tactical error. And now black finds the tactic, which is bishop takes d3, getting rid of the defender of f4. Now white cannot recapture because the bishop on f4 is hanging, so white is forced to take this bishop. And now before black takes back, he can use this bishop to gain more material, and he took on c2, attacking the rook and the knight, so white has to recapture here. He can also play bishop e5, but now both sides will take rooks, and at the end black will be a pawn up anyway. So bishop c2, and now black is close to winning for a few reasons. He has a pawn up, which is the obvious reason, but also he has the way more active king, and also his structure is quite good in the center here. So rook he1, black plays knight f6, h3, and rook h8, very logical. White plays bishop b3, which doesn't really help his position. There is no reason for the bishop to go here. White should have been trying to look for activity, maybe with this rook, for example, take, and rook d4 with the idea to put the rook on a4, attacking the weakness on a7, and also he could jump to other side as well. And of course black is still better, but white can fight on. And after bishop b3, this allows knight d4 as well. Bishop goes back, but now this pawn is just hanging, after which white is completely lost. But black played f5. Now g4 happens. This again gives up this pawn. So white is evidently not looking at the opponent's possible captures, and the opponent is simply capturing his stuff. Now black is 2 pawns up, but he does get some chances. After gf, black makes the blunder, knight takes h3, instead of just taking back here. And the reason this is a blunder is because now white has the availability to get rid of the kingside pawns by taking here and taking. And now, even though black is a pawn ahead still, now all of the pawns are on one side, which will make it a lot easier for white to defend, because there are no overpassed pawns here, and the white king can defend the rest of the pawns and also this passed pawn. White will have to suffer, but objectively it's a draw. But f6 was played, and it's logical to push the passed pawn, but unfortunately this passed pawn will not go anywhere. Rook f2 happens, and now black is left with 2 connected passed pawns. This pawn will fall, and black will be 3 pawns up, which basically happens. King e7, and the black knight goes to take the pawn, and the rest of the game is not entirely interesting.